A Woman Without Friends, Denzel, Washington. Have you ever noticed how society often measures a person's worth by the number of friends they have? As if always being surrounded by a crowd or constantly moving from one event to another is the only sign of a fulfilling life. If you're not in the center of social buzz, they assume something must be missing, like solitude is synonymous with emptiness. But let me share this with you. There is a woman out there today, with few or no friends at all, and she is one of the most resilient, self-assured people you could ever know. She doesn't seek validation from the masses, and she's not defined by the noise around her. She knows her values, understands her purpose, and that's where true power lies. Welcome to Stoic in Your Life, where we unravel lessons from stories like these and delve into the teachings of Stoic resilience in a modern world. 1. The value of self-contentment and self-knowledge. The concept of self-contentment and self-knowledge, especially when reflected in a woman who stands strong without the typical social validation, is a powerful image that resonates with many. She is a figure of quiet strength, one who navigates the world with a sense of deep-rooted self-assurance that isn't swayed by others' opinions or applause. This type of inner peace stems from true self-knowledge, knowing who she is, what she values, and what she stands for. This is not something that can be achieved through fleeting popularity or being surrounded by crowds. Instead, it is cultivated through introspection, resilience, and a commitment to living authentically. As Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "Man conquers the world by conquering himself." This wisdom applies here seamlessly, showing that true victory lies not in the external battles for attention, but in mastering one's inner world. In today's fast-paced world, where external validation often takes precedence over personal growth, this lesson is invaluable. The modern obsession with social media likes, followers, and constant social engagement can lead many to believe that self-worth is measured by numbers. Yet, there's immense power in stepping back and realizing that being at peace with oneself is the ultimate form of strength. A woman who is self-sufficient in her identity and values understands that her worth isn't tied to how many friends she has or how often she's invited to gatherings. Instead, she knows that life's true contentment comes from within, from the serenity of understanding who you are beyond the noise. This is a lesson many men can appreciate and relate to as well, particularly those in the 40 to 70 age range who have experienced the shifting tides of social expectations over decades. Often society can pressure individuals, especially women, into thinking that being surrounded by people equates to being successful or fulfilled. But take a moment to think about this. How many times have you seen individuals surrounded by friends yet feeling utterly alone? It is because their peace is contingent on external sources, and the moment those are gone, so is their sense of identity. The woman who embraces herself in her solitude is not swayed by this. She doesn't seek approval or lose herself trying to fit into molds set by others. Instead, she maintains a small, intentional circle, one built on trust and meaningful relationships. This circle is free from the drama and superficial connections that so often drain one's energy and peace of mind. For anyone listening today, consider how many of your relationships add true value to your life. Are you surrounding yourself with those who support your growth? Or are you stuck in circles where you feel the need to perform for approval? The power of a small, focused circle cannot be overstated, as it allows for clarity amidst life's noise and distractions. This kind of discernment and intentionality is rare in a world that values quantity over quality. Yet it's essential for preserving one's mental and emotional energy. In the wise words of Marcus Aurelius, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." A woman who embodies self-contentment understands this deeply. She knows that while she cannot control how others perceive her or the way society views friendship and status, she can control her reaction to these external pressures. This is where her real power lies, not in chasing superficial relationships, but in cultivating an inner garden that blooms regardless of who is watching. Modern life has its unique challenges, especially with the pressure to conform and be constantly visible. For men and women alike, the lesson here is to take a step back and prioritize what truly matters. Self-contentment and a solid sense of self-knowledge lead to a life where you're less affected by external chaos and more attuned to what brings you genuine joy. Building this kind of self-awareness doesn't happen overnight. It's an ongoing journey of reflection, learning, and sometimes standing alone. But the reward is immense, living a life where you are your own pillar, not swayed by the changing tides of others' opinions. Moreover, the focus should be on creating relationships that enhance your well-being, not those that merely fill the silence. Being intentional about whom you let into your inner circle ensures that each interaction is meaningful and reinforces your sense of peace. The woman with self-contentment knows that this kind of peace is not just a nice idea, it's essential. For those who are listening and considering their path in life, remember that your value doesn't diminish because your social circle is small. On the contrary, choosing a life that aligns with who you truly are means surrounding yourself only with those who respect and uplift you. In the end, the true measure of a fulfilling life isn't found in the size of your social network, but in the depth of your understanding of yourself and the quality of the connections you choose to nurture. As Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." This includes the opinions of others and societal pressures that demand conformity. Embrace who you are, value the relationships that align with your principles, and remember that the most powerful journey you can undertake is the one towards self-knowledge and contentment. In doing so, you'll find that true peace comes not from the noise around you, but from the quiet confidence within. 2. True confidence explained. When we think of confidence, the first image that often comes to mind is someone standing in the spotlight, speaking boldly, and attracting attention with ease. But let me tell you, true confidence is not always loud or dazzling. Instead, it is quiet and steady, built on a foundation of inner peace and self-assuredness that doesn't rely on the validation of others. Real confidence is when you believe in yourself so deeply that you no longer feel the need to announce it to the world. It flourishes in moments of solitude and is most powerful when it is simply felt, not shown. Now think about the world we live in, one that constantly pushes us to prove ourselves. Social media, endless networking, and public recognition make us believe that the more seen and heard we are, the more confident we must be. But have you ever considered that the person who doesn't seek the spotlight may be the most confident of all? Picture someone sitting at a cafe alone, content, without needing to scan the room or reach for their phone. That's confidence. It's the woman who doesn't need to prove herself to anyone because she knows her worth within. Take the story of a high-level executive who, after years of thriving in fast-paced corporate environments, chose to step back and redefine her own version of success. She went from leading teams and speaking at conferences to finding joy in simple things, like hiking alone or spending time reading in silence. Friends questioned her choices, and colleagues called her brave for stepping away from the noise. But to her, it wasn't bravery. It was an act of understanding that real confidence meant being at peace with herself, away from others' expectations. How often do we ask ourselves, is our confidence dependent on applause or recognition, or can we truly be at peace without it? You see, when confidence is rooted in external sources, compliments, promotions, or the validation of being liked, it becomes fragile. The moment those external props vanish, so does the sense of self-assurance. True confidence, however, thrives even when nobody is watching. It's about maintaining that inner stability, no matter the environment or audience. It's the strength you carry when you know who you are and what you stand for. The poet Rumi once said, "Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." This means crafting your own path without being swayed by the world's loud expectations, holding on to your belief in yourself as your anchor. In modern life, The challenge lies in recognizing this form of quiet power. We are conditioned to equate confidence with public speaking, assertiveness, or social media influence. But what if true confidence is simply the ability to sit alone with your thoughts and not feel the need to fill the silence? If you're listening to this, ask yourself, when was the last time you felt confident without any external nod of approval? The answer could reshape your view of what real self-assurance means. Real confidence whispers rather than shouts. It leaves an impression that lingers, showing others that self-worth isn't tied to attention, but is deeply embedded in self-awareness. Let's take a look at how this applies to the everyday man or woman juggling the demands of work, relationships, and personal growth. A woman who knows her value doesn't compete for validation. She doesn't need to raise her voice to prove her point or adjust her opinions to fit in. She is the one who can walk into a room and let her quiet presence speak volumes. Her power is felt, not forced. And as for you, think about the people in your life. Who among them embodies this calm, assured confidence? Are you drawn to them because of what they say, or because of how they carry themselves, even in silence? By learning from these examples and understanding that real confidence isn't about the noise but about the calm beneath it, you can start to build that same unwavering belief in yourself. In a world eager to measure success by how many people are looking, the true measure of confidence lies in being content when no one is watching. And here's the lesson to take home. Confidence that depends on being noticed is temporary, but confidence that finds its roots in self-awareness, in the knowledge that you are enough as you are, is the kind that will carry you through any storm. So ask yourself, is your confidence grounded in who you are, or in who others think you should be? If it's the latter, maybe it's time to pause and rediscover the strength that comes from within, the kind that needs no applause, only your recognition. 3. The importance of a selective circle. When we talk about the importance of a selective circle, we're diving into one of the most impactful lessons for living a life true to yourself. Yes, connection is essential. It fuels our sense of belonging, gives us moments of joy, and brings shared experiences that enrich our lives. But here's the thing. Not all connections are created equal. The depth of a relationship holds far more value than the number of people in your contact list. So when we say that having a selective circle is crucial, it's not about choosing isolation or shunning social life. It's about discernment and prioritizing quality over quantity. Have you ever taken a moment to reflect on who sits at your table? Who in your life truly uplifts you, shares your values, or supports you without judgment? That kind of awareness is where empowerment begins. Choosing wisely when it comes to the people you allow into your inner circle isn't just a preference. It's a necessity for your peace of mind and authenticity. The right people bring out the best in you, remind you of your strengths, and stand by your side not only during moments of celebration but when life's storms roll in. On the other hand, relationships that are superficial or one-sided often drain your energy, chip away at your self-worth, and distract you from your path. Think about the wisdom of Epictetus, who said, "We should be more concerned with removing than adding, and at the same time making the good better." This quote resonates deeply when we consider the influence of people in our lives. It's not about constantly adding more connections or being surrounded by a crowd. It's about nurturing the ones that bring genuine value and letting go of those who don't. Now, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you evaluated your closest relationships? Are they with people who see your true self, who support your growth without envy or hidden motives? If you're nodding your head, you know the power of a chosen circle. And if you're feeling uncertain, this could be a pivotal moment for reflection. We live in a time where being liked and having a wide network can feel synonymous with success. Social media amplifies this, making it seem as if popularity is the ultimate achievement. But in reality, popularity without depth is hollow. The woman who walks through life confidently with a small, selective group by her side is not missing out. She's safeguarded her peace, her energy, and her authenticity. And you can do the same. Selecting your circle carefully is like building a fortress for your spirit. Not everyone deserves a seat at the table of your life, and that's not being unkind. It's being wise. When you set this boundary, you protect yourself from unnecessary drama and negativity. You choose relationships that feed your soul rather than drain it. Have you ever noticed that after spending time with certain people, you feel revitalized, more you, while others leave you feeling small, judged, or exhausted? That's a sign, a lesson that not every connection is meant to last. This principle is especially important when you consider the fast pace of today's world, where people rush through relationships and networks like they're collecting points. But think of the strong oak tree, rooted, steady, growing not because of a vast number of shallow roots, but because of a few deep ones that provide it with strength and nourishment. Your life is much the same. A carefully chosen circle of genuine, loyal, and supportive friends acts as those deep roots, enabling you to thrive through the seasons of your life. Next, think of how often we're advised to network endlessly for career growth, social leverage, or personal gains. Yet, how often are we told to nurture meaningful connections? The latter is the foundation of true well-being. In my experience, having a small group of people who challenge me to grow, who offer kindness without pretense, and who are present in my victories and setbacks, has made all the difference. The fulfillment isn't in how many people know your name, but in knowing that a select few genuinely know you and still choose to stay. So, who do you have in your corner when life gets hard? Who lifts you up when you doubt yourself, and who celebrates you without jealousy when you succeed? Prioritize the quality of your relationships, not just the quantity. Be intentional with whom you give your time and trust. It's not about closing off your world. It's about ensuring that those within it respect, uplift, and add true value to your life. Because in the end, a carefully curated circle isn't just a source of support. It's a reflection of your self-respect and the life you choose to build. So, I leave you with this thought. Are you investing in relationships that contribute to your growth, or are you still holding on to connections that hold you back? Your peace, energy, and authentic self depend on the answer. 4. Lessons from life's challenges. Life's challenges often become the stage where our true character is revealed, and just as importantly, they show us the character of those around us. It is in those moments of struggle, hardship, and unexpected trials that we come to know who is genuinely by our side and who is just passing through. For a woman, navigating these periods without a crowd to rely on can be enlightening, showing that true friends are few but invaluable. Hardship acts as a filter, separating the meaningful relationships from those that are superficial. And in those moments when life feels like it's crumbling, the people who remain by your side reveal the real nature of loyalty and support. As Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This means that the quality of people you surround yourself with ultimately influences your mindset and spirit. When you face life's difficulties, the strength or toxicity of those around you can either uplift you or drain you. Life will throw challenges at each of us, whether it's personal loss, career setbacks, or unexpected detours. The lesson here is not just about enduring these moments, but about understanding who shares that journey with you. Picture this: a woman, maybe in her 40s or 50s, who has seen her fair share of betrayals and letdowns, learns over time that only a few relationships are worth holding on to. She becomes selective, not out of bitterness, but out of learned discernment. This selectivity is what keeps her sane and grounded, allowing her to walk forward with peace and a clear mind. For anyone listening, especially men aged 40 to 70, who've witnessed the ebbs and flows of their own social circles, think back to those times when you faced true adversity. The people who stay during your darkest hours are the ones whose presence goes beyond convenience. They're not just there for the good times, but for the moments when you need reassurance, honesty, and companionship. The experiences that test your limits also teach you the importance of setting boundaries. It's easy to let people into your life, especially when things are good and everyone wants a piece of the action. But adversity changes the game. It's during these trials that you learn the hard lesson of quality over quantity. Do you really need a large group if most of them will vanish when the storm comes? The truth is, it's better to have a small, sturdy crew than a large group with no depth. As the Stoics would remind us, it's not about impressing others, but about keeping your peace intact. Setting boundaries and being discerning isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. In today's world, where the line between genuine connection and superficial acquaintance is increasingly blurred by social media and digital interactions, it's more important than ever to safeguard your energy and mental well-being. The reality is, not everyone deserves access to your life. This can be a hard pill to swallow, especially if you've spent years trying to be accommodating or if you were raised to think that more is always better. But here's the thing. True peace and happiness come from knowing who to let in and who to keep at a distance. Seneca, another voice of Stoic wisdom, advised, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This couldn't be more relevant today, where many relationships are based on convenience and mutual benefit rather than genuine care. When you've kept someone in your life out of obligation or nostalgia, even when they no longer contributed positively to your well-being. Maybe it was a friendship that once served you but now feels like a drain, or an acquaintance who only shows up when it benefits them. During challenging times, these connections reveal themselves for what they are, faint echoes of true support. The lesson from life's challenges is clear. It's essential to curate your circle with intention. This doesn't mean shutting people out without cause. It means being wise enough to recognize which connections deserve nurturing and which should fade away. Modern life, with its rush and noise, often pushes us to feel like we need to keep up appearances or maintain a wide network. But if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that quality relationships are what sustain us when everything else falls apart. A woman who has learned to value quality over quantity embodies resilience. She knows that her small, well-chosen circle gives her strength that no wide, shallow network can match. And this idea doesn't just apply to women. It's a universal truth for anyone who's lived long enough to see how relationships shift and change over time. Life's challenges are inevitable, but facing them with the right people by your side makes all the difference. This is not just a lesson in friendship, but in self-respect and self-care. You owe it to yourself to choose carefully, to build a circle that is as strong as it is small. Remember, adversity doesn't just reveal character, it refines it, both in you and in those you choose to keep close. And in the wise words of Epictetus, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So react with discernment, surround yourself with the right people, and you'll find that even in the hardest of times, you're anchored by a strength that runs deep. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. In the comments, share this simple response. Living authentically is true peace. Let's see how many of us agree on the value of authenticity in life. 5. Societal pressure and the courage to be different. Society has long tried to convince us that being popular is the same as being successful, that having a wide circle of friends and constant social engagements is proof of worth and validation. But think about this for a moment. Is that really true? The woman who chooses to keep her circle small is a testament to the fact that it's not. She stands out because she values her peace and independence over the noise of constant approval. She doesn't seek to blend in or be seen at every event, and she doesn't measure her happiness by how many people know her name. And while this might make her misunderstood, seen as distant or even aloof, she knows that conforming to societal expectations means sacrificing her true self. It takes courage to stand apart, to say no to what everyone else is chasing, and to choose authenticity instead. This kind of courage isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, firm, and rooted deeply in self-respect. As Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, being different often means others won't understand, and that's okay. In a scenario you might relate to, A woman who works in a fast-paced office where every week there's another social outing, another chance to mingle and climb the social ladder. While her colleagues rush to fit in and secure their standing in the team, she chooses differently. She attends when she feels like it, but she never compromises her well-being to be seen or validated. The whispers start. Is she unfriendly? Does she think she's better than us? But she knows that true fulfillment doesn't come from following the crowd. It comes from aligning with one's values. How many times have you felt pressure to say yes to an invitation or participate in something just to keep up appearances? How often have you ignored what you really wanted for the sake of fitting in? The world we live in amplifies this pressure. Social media constantly feeds us the idea that more connections and more visibility equal more happiness. But here's the truth. Likes, followers, and a packed calendar don't necessarily mean you're living a fulfilled life. In fact, the most confident, grounded people are often those who don't need to be in the spotlight. They're the ones who prioritize meaningful connections over surface-level interactions. They don't chase validation because they've already given it to themselves. The woman with a small circle exemplifies this. Her courage to be different is not rebellious for the sake of it. It's about choosing what nourishes her soul over what feeds others' perceptions of her. When you stop performing for others and start living for yourself, the weight lifts. The woman who stays true to herself, despite the sideways glances and unsolicited opinions, teaches us an invaluable lesson. True happiness is rooted in self-acceptance, not in external praise. And that's where real strength comes from. Conforming may buy temporary comfort, but authenticity brings lasting peace. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you stop worrying about fitting in and start focusing on what makes you truly content. Have you ever felt that sense of relief when you finally let go of what others think and simply did what felt right for you? Now, let's tie this to everyday life. Maybe you're a man in your 50s who spent years trying to meet the expectations of friends, colleagues, or even family members. You've been to the dinners, attended the meetings, and made the appearances, all to be seen and acknowledged. But deep down, you know that some of those moments felt hollow, that the peace you were searching for never came from being liked or noticed. It came in quieter moments, when you were true to yourself, pursuing hobbies you loved, spending time with the people who really mattered, or simply finding comfort in your own company. The message here is clear: the courage to be different, to not chase every social obligation, and to keep your circle small is not a weakness. It's a form of strength. 6. Understanding self-worth. Understanding self-worth is one of the most profound lessons we can learn, and it's a quality that shapes how we move through life, especially for someone who values independence. Let's talk about what it truly means to know your worth. It's not about waiting for someone else to validate you or counting on praise to feel complete. Self-worth should never hinge on the approval of others, and that's a message many of us need to hear and internalize. When you realize your value, you begin to embrace who you are without feeling the need to compromise. This is a powerful shift, one that turns your focus from seeking validation to living authentically. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words remind us that real strength comes from within, not from the fluctuating opinions of others. Think for a moment about what happens when you base your self-worth on others' approval. It's like building a house on sand. It may stand for a while, but as soon as a storm hits, a criticism, a failure, or a moment of insecurity, it crumbles. But for the person who understands their worth, their foundation is solid, built on rock. An independent woman who truly grasps her self-worth acts with quiet confidence. She doesn't need to impress. She needs only to be. This doesn't mean she never faces challenges or doubts. On the contrary, her self-assurance is tested most during difficult times. But instead of bending or breaking under pressure, she stands firm, proving that her sense of worth is rooted deeply in her character, not swayed by external noise. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem unshaken even when faced with adversity? Maybe you've worked alongside someone who, in the midst of chaos, remained composed and resolute. What sets them apart is an unyielding belief in their value that doesn't shift based on what others think. This is where true self-worth shines, not when life is easy, but when it's hard. It's in those moments that being grounded in who you are allows you to navigate storms without losing your essence. The lesson here is simple. Self-worth that depends on others' opinions is fragile, but self-worth built on your understanding of yourself is unbreakable. Now let's bring this closer to everyday life. Imagine how many times you've held back from speaking your mind at work, sharing an idea, or pursuing a goal because you feared judgment. It's a common experience, especially in a world that often emphasizes conformity over authenticity. But what if you embraced your own value and acted regardless of what others might think? That's the mindset of the independent woman who no longer feels the need to seek applause. Her focus is not on being liked, but on being true to herself, and there is immense power in that. Epictetus put it well when he said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you know your worth, your reactions come from a place of calm confidence even when the world around you is uncertain. The connection between self-worth and resilience is undeniable. Those who understand their value build an inner strength that can withstand criticism, rejection, or any curveball life throws their way. This doesn't mean they're immune to feeling pain or disappointment. It means that their core remains steady. They may waver, but won't fall apart, because they know that their worth isn't defined by others' fleeting opinions. In a world where many of us are taught to look outside ourselves for validation, the independent woman stands as a reminder that the real work is internal. She shows that the greatest form of self-care is acknowledging your inherent worth and protecting it fiercely. Do you measure your value based on what others say or how they react? Or have you taken the time to build a sense of worth that stands strong, even when you're criticized or misunderstood? There's freedom in knowing that your worth is non-negotiable, and that comes from being in tune with yourself. This is not just a lesson for women. It's a universal truth for anyone who has ever felt the sting of needing approval. It's about moving past the need to fit in and embracing the fact that who you are is enough, even when no one else acknowledges it. Self-worth that's rooted in who you are, not in others' opinions, is the kind that endures. It's what allows you to show up in life with courage, grace, and unwavering authenticity. When you understand this, you stop bending to meet expectations and start standing tall, weathering any storm with the quiet strength that only comes from within. 7. Misinterpretations by others. When it comes to being selective about who you let into your inner circle, misunderstandings are almost inevitable. Society has a way of labeling people who choose to be more discerning with their relationships as aloof, distant, or even difficult. But let's pause for a moment and really think about what's going on here. Is it fair to judge someone who exercises wisdom and sets boundaries? The truth is, being selective is not an act of exclusion or an indication of antisocial behavior. It's wisdom in action. People who are careful about whom they allow close are not doing so out of arrogance or a lack of interest in others, but out of a deep desire to protect their peace and maintain their well-being. In today's fast-paced world, where being constantly connected is often mistaken for being genuinely connected, this kind of selectivity is more important than ever. We're all bombarded with the idea that having more friends or being at the center of attention is the ultimate sign of success. But have you ever felt drained after spending time with certain people, even if they seem friendly or fun? That's because not all relationships are created equal. Some people nourish your spirit, while others quietly sap your energy. The woman who is deliberate about her circle knows this well. She isn't avoiding people. She's choosing to invest her time and emotional energy in relationships that uplift rather than exhaust her. It's a practice of self-care and resilience, not of being standoffish. And for men listening today, especially those aged 40 to 70, who have seen and experienced various friendships over the years, this lesson is relevant. How many times have you kept people around out of habit or social obligation, even when they added stress or negativity to your life? In life, someone spends years building a career, accumulating connections, and attending events to expand their network. But then, a major life event occurs, a health issue, the loss of a loved one, or a personal crisis, and suddenly, the vast number of acquaintances doesn't matter. What matters are the few people who reach out, who show up, and who genuinely care without expecting anything in return. These moments are wake-up calls that reveal the difference between true friends and mere acquaintances. And it's in these times that the wisdom of having set boundaries and being selective becomes clear. The woman who has chosen her friends carefully isn't lonely. She's safeguarded. She's surrounded by a small but mighty support system that she can rely on when life gets tough. This isn't being cold, it's being wise and realistic. When people misunderstand this selectivity, it often comes down to a difference in perspective. We live in an age where visibility is often mistaken for meaningful connection. But choosing not to spread yourself thin doesn't mean you're disconnected. It means you value quality over quantity. This kind of decision can be difficult, especially when others label you as distant. Yet, the strength it takes to stand by your boundaries is immense and reflects an inner stability that many admire but few understand. Seneca once observed, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This isn't just advice. It's a way of living that prioritizes peace and growth over appearances and popularity. Now, you might be wondering how this applies to your own life. Have you ever felt pressured to maintain a friendship that no longer serves you? Or stayed in social circles out of a fear of judgment if you walked away? It's a common situation, especially for those who have built their lives around maintaining connections. But as time goes on, it becomes clear that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Relationships are investments, and like any wise investment, they should yield positive returns: joy, support, understanding, and growth. The woman who understands this doesn't waste time trying to please everyone. She focuses on those who truly matter. This doesn't mean cutting ties ruthlessly or shutting yourself off from the world. It means being mindful and intentional, knowing that your time and energy are precious. Every relationship should be weighed against one question: does this person add value to my life, or do they drain it? If it's the latter, setting boundaries isn't an act of rejection, it's an act of preservation. And here's the thing: those who misunderstand this approach will always exist, but their opinions don't define your choices. The strength of character it takes to live this way speaks volumes. When you surround yourself with people who enrich your life, you're able to give more fully and live more authentically. At the end of the day, it's not about having a crowd around you, but having the right people close by. The lesson is simple but profound. Discernment in your relationships is key to safeguarding your peace and mental health. Are you living a life where your circle supports and uplifts you, or are you surrounded by people who only take? The choice to be selective may invite misunderstandings, but it also brings a life of authenticity, peace, and genuine connection. As you reflect on this, remember that true fulfillment comes not from the number of people in your life, but from the quality of those relationships. The woman with a selective circle isn't antisocial, she's wise. And in that wisdom, there's a peace that many seek but few find. 8. Realizing the power of solitude. Solitude often gets misunderstood, painted as something to avoid, or a state that only lonely people experience. But in reality, solitude is one of the most empowering experiences you can have. It's in those moments alone that clarity begins to surface, and personal strength is nurtured. Just think about what Seneca once said: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This wisdom rings true in the context of solitude. It's not about what you lack, but about how time alone can reveal that you already possess what you need. When you embrace solitude, it strips away the external noise that often clutters the mind, allowing you to reconnect with yourself and rediscover what truly matters. How often do you feel pressured to stay connected, always surrounded by people, or keep up appearances just so you don't seem alone? Yet, it's in those rare moments of solitude that we realize we don't need external validation to be whole. When a woman who chooses to spend time by herself, not out of necessity, but out of a desire to grow and listen to her inner voice, she's not lonely. She's investing in herself. Perhaps she takes walks in nature, or sits quietly with a book, letting her thoughts wander and settle. This is where growth begins. It's not in the hustle or the constant engagement with others, but in the peaceful moments where she can reflect, question, and discover new layers of her being. In today's world, where every notification, social event, or expectation pulls at our attention, it's easy to forget how valuable solitude is. But those who know how to harness it find that it's not a void. It's a reservoir of power and understanding. Solitude becomes a space where you aren't defined by what others expect of you, but by what you truly are. Think about how often we chase after validation or approval, going from one social event to another or checking our phones to feel connected. But what if we shifted our perspective to see solitude not as an absence of company, but as an opportunity for enrichment? The strength of character that comes from being comfortable alone is profound. It shows a kind of confidence that doesn't depend on external reinforcement. When you learn to sit with yourself, you start to see things more clearly. Decisions become easier, stress becomes more manageable, and life's challenges don't feel as daunting because you've built a fortress of inner resilience. Solitude teaches you to trust your intuition and value your own company, which in turn makes you more present and grounded when you're with others. There's a story I once heard about a man in his 50s who had spent years in the corporate grind, constantly surrounded by colleagues, attending meetings, and always in the thick of social obligations. But it wasn't until he took a sabbatical and started spending more time alone, without the constant chatter and deadlines, that he began to truly understand himself. He realized he had been defining his worth based on his work, his connections, and the noise around him. The solitude didn't just give him peace, it gave him perspective. He found himself reconnecting with hobbies he'd long forgotten and reflecting on what he genuinely wanted out of life. This period of solitude turned out to be the most enriching chapter he'd ever experienced. Solitude allows you to check in with your core values. In those quiet moments, you're reminded of what's most important and what paths align with who you want to be. For many, this realization can be transformative. Instead of feeling lost in the sea of others' opinions and the pressures of social conformity, you start to navigate life with renewed purpose. You can go back to your relationships, work, and passions with a stronger sense of self. And that's the power of solitude. It's not just a break from the world, it's a reconnection with your essence. Solitude isn't something to fear or avoid, it's a practice to embrace. It fuels growth, provides clarity, and reminds you that your strength comes from within, not from the validation or presence of others. And as you walk away from those moments of solitude, you carry with you a renewed energy and a deeper understanding of who you are. That is where true power lies, and that is what enables you to move forward with confidence and unwavering strength. 9. The relationship between self-love and security. The relationship between self-love and security is profound and essential, yet it's often overlooked in the constant rush of modern life. Let's break it down together. True security doesn't come from what others think of you or from the validation you might receive from outside sources. Instead, it starts with a deep-rooted sense of self-love. A woman who truly cherishes herself understands that her worth isn't dependent on someone else's approval, praise, or validation. And when she fully embraces this, something remarkable happens. She's freed from the exhausting need to constantly seek attention or prove her value. This kind of self-assuredness changes everything. It allows her to walk through life with confidence and grace, knowing that she's enough just as she is. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When your inner dialogue is grounded in self-love, Your perception of security becomes unwavering and independent of outside influences. Have you ever noticed how people who are comfortable in their own skin seem to draw others to them effortlessly? They don't need to boast or put on a show to command respect. Their mere presence speaks volumes. This is because true self-love fosters an aura of confidence that is magnetic and authentic. It's not the loud, attention-seeking kind. It's the quiet assurance of knowing who you are and valuing yourself enough not to need constant external reinforcement. This doesn't mean that a woman who has found self-love doesn't value relationships or connection. On the contrary, she seeks relationships that are built on depth and sincerity because she's not interested in superficiality or the shallow aspects of attention. Her strength lies in her ability to connect with people who respect her and align with her values, not those who merely seek to flatter or use her. In a modern story we can all relate to, a successful woman in her 50s who, after decades of playing by society's rules, finally decides to prioritize herself. She stops attending events just to be seen, quits saying yes to commitments that don't resonate with her, and learns to enjoy her own company. Friends notice the change. Some are confused, some are even judgmental, but those who understand and appreciate her transformation stay. And you know what happens? She becomes happier, more secure, and more content than ever before. Her relationships deepen because she's no longer playing a role or seeking validation. Instead, she's nurturing genuine connections that reflect her true self. This shift is liberating. Have you ever thought about how different your life might feel if you stopped chasing approval and started focusing on what truly makes you feel whole? This realization, that self-love is the key to true security, changes the game. When you learn to embrace yourself fully, flaws and all, you start to realize that external validation is a bonus, not a necessity. You're no longer swayed by the opinions of others because you know your worth doesn't change based on what someone else sees or doesn't see in you. This inner peace allows you to set boundaries, say no when needed, and protect your energy. It's a practice of valuing yourself enough to ensure that your relationships are reciprocal and enriching, not draining or one-sided. Seneca's words come to mind. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. The woman who understands self-love doesn't crave more attention because she already knows her value. Think about it. How many of us have been in situations where we tried to be everything to everyone, hoping that would bring us the security we seek? But that approach only leaves us feeling emptier, more insecure, and constantly chasing validation that slips through our fingers. The lesson here is that true security comes from within. It's rooted in knowing that your worth isn't up for debate, and that it doesn't waver based on others' opinions or circumstances. This kind of self-love isn't selfish, it's foundational. It equips you to engage in meaningful relationships and life pursuits from a place of strength and authenticity. And here's the beautiful irony. When you don't seek validation, you often receive genuine admiration from those who recognize and respect your self-assuredness. To reflect on how much of your sense of security is anchored in self-love versus external approval. What would change if you started valuing yourself without needing someone else's stamp of approval? The answer might lead you to a life that's more peaceful, resilient, and fulfilling. The key takeaway is that a woman, or anyone really, who cherishes themselves, radiates an inner strength that can withstand life's uncertainties. She is secure not because she is always praised, but because she knows who she is and what she stands for. And as she walks confidently, she draws people who resonate with her unyielding sense of self-worth. So, I'll leave you with this. If you started prioritizing self-love today, how different could your tomorrow look? 10. Intentionality in relationships. When it comes to the quality of relationships, intentionality is everything. It's about making deliberate choices to surround yourself with people who uplift you, support your growth, and share your values. For a woman who chooses to maintain a small circle, this isn't an act of isolation. It's a conscious decision that reflects her understanding of what truly matters. She knows that relationships built on authenticity and mutual respect are the ones worth nurturing. This careful selection isn't about being exclusive for the sake of it. It's about creating a life where peace and positivity reign. As Epictetus wisely put it, we should be more concerned with removing than adding, and at the same time making the good better. This means that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to choose fewer but better connections. In life, where we're constantly encouraged to network, connect, and accumulate as many social interactions as possible, we're told that a wide circle is a sign of success and that being invited everywhere is a mark of social proof. But the truth is, a large network doesn't always mean a supportive one. Have you ever found yourself at a social gathering, surrounded by people, yet feeling more alone than ever? That's because it's not the number of people in your life that counts, but the depth and quality of those relationships. A woman who practices intentionality in her relationships understands this deeply. She's not looking for numbers, she's looking for value. And so, she sets high standards not out of arrogance, but out of a desire to protect her well-being and foster genuine connections. Intentionality in relationships acts as a safeguard against the chaos and negativity that can easily seep into one's life when surrounded by the wrong influences. You've probably experienced times when certain people brought unnecessary drama or sapped your energy, leaving you feeling drained. By being selective, a woman ensures her emotional energy isn't spent on relationships that don't contribute positively to her life. This principle doesn't just apply to women, it's a universal truth. Whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, you've likely learned by now that not everyone who enters your life deserves a permanent place in it. It's not about shutting people out without reason. It's about recognizing who adds value and who merely adds noise. There's a story about a man who, after years of feeling overwhelmed by social obligations and maintaining numerous friendships, decided to focus on only a handful of people who truly mattered. He found that by doing this, his life became more peaceful, more fulfilling, and most importantly, more authentic. When you prioritize intentionality in your relationships, you're choosing to create a circle that is supportive and constructive. High standards in relationships don't mean expecting perfection. They mean valuing respect, trust, and mutual support. And here's a question for you. Are the people in your life lifting you up, or are they holding you back? It's a difficult question, but an important one. The people you spend time with have a profound impact on your mindset and well-being. If your circle is filled with individuals who inspire you, challenge you in positive ways, and stand by you in difficult times, then you're on the right path. But if your circle is filled with those who bring constant drama, negativity, or superficiality, it's time to reconsider where you're investing your emotional energy. The strength of intentional relationships lies in their ability to provide a safe space where you can be yourself without judgment. When you surround yourself with people who align with your values and goals, life becomes less about navigating social minefields and more about genuine companionship. A woman who chooses this path isn't lonely. She's wise. She understands that her peace and happiness are too valuable to compromise for the sake of fitting in or maintaining shallow connections. And this is a lesson for all of us. In a world that rewards quantity over quality, it's crucial to remember that true fulfillment comes from meaningful connections, not from the number of names in your contact list. So what does this mean for you? It's a call to action to examine your relationships and ask yourself if they reflect intentional choice. Are you holding on to certain connections out of habit, obligation, or fear of being alone? Or are you surrounding yourself with people who genuinely enrich your life? The answer may lead you to difficult decisions, but those decisions are essential for growth and peace of mind. By setting high standards and maintaining a selective circle, you're not just avoiding negativity. You're building a foundation of trust and support that can weather any storm. This approach to relationships creates a life that is not just busy, but fulfilling. It's not about having a full calendar. It's about having a full heart surrounded by those who truly matter. 11. The strength to stand alone. The strength to stand alone is one of the most underrated yet powerful qualities a person can possess. It takes real courage to prioritize oneself and step away from the comforting noise of the crowd. Choosing to walk a path alone isn't about seeking isolation or rejecting others. It's about making a conscious decision to focus on what truly matters to you. For the woman who embraces this choice, it means walking with clarity, free from the distractions and pressures that come with trying to fit in or please everyone. This is where true growth happens, when you strip away the superficial and align your actions with your values. We're surrounded by a culture that often tells us being constantly social and in the middle of everything is a sign of success. Social media feeds this notion, making solitude seem almost taboo, as if standing alone means you're missing out or somehow incomplete. But let me ask you this. Have you ever felt a deeper sense of peace when you stepped away from the noise and focused solely on what aligns with your true self? This is the kind of strength that doesn't just build character, but defines it. The woman who chooses this path does so knowing that personal growth and clarity are the rewards. It allows her to set and achieve personal goals without being pulled in different directions by others' expectations or societal trends. Next, the story of a man who, after years of building a career that kept him in the public eye, decided to step back. Friends called him bold, while others whispered that he was taking a step backward. But he knew that he needed time to reflect, realign and focus on what truly mattered to him, away from the spotlight. He discovered that this time alone was not empty. It was full of purpose and learning. By standing alone, he gained a new perspective on life that enriched not just his career but his relationships and sense of fulfillment. This strength to prioritize oneself is not about turning away from others, but about not compromising on values, even when it means you might walk part of your journey without company. Now think about your own life. How often have you felt torn between what you truly want and what others expect of you? It's a common experience, especially as we navigate various stages of life where approval, whether at work or among friends and family, can feel essential. But what if you allowed yourself the freedom to step back and follow what aligns with your personal principles? That kind of focused path is what allows you to live authentically. It's not always easy. You might face misunderstandings, and people might label you as distant or independent to a fault. But it's in these moments that your commitment to standing alone, rooted in what you know to be true for you, proves its worth. Standing alone means you're not easily swayed by the changing winds of social norms or opinions. You build resilience because you learn to trust yourself and your judgments. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This perfectly captures the essence of why choosing to walk alone at times is powerful. It's about mastering your choices, owning your path, and knowing that your worth isn't tied to how many people are cheering you on. This is not to say relationships don't matter. They absolutely do. But the key is that the relationships you keep should add to your journey, not direct it. So, what does this mean for you today? It's a call to recognize that walking alone isn't a sign of weakness or loneliness. It's a testament to your strength and commitment to live authentically. Are you willing to set aside the need for external validation and listen to your inner voice? When you do, you'll find that life becomes simpler, less cluttered with other people's expectations, and more aligned with your true purpose. The message here is clear. Standing alone, not out of bitterness but out of self-respect and clarity, empowers you to live a life that is genuinely yours. It encourages growth, builds resilience, and paves the way for achievements that are meaningful because they align with who you truly are. That prioritizing yourself and being willing to walk alone doesn't mean turning your back on others. It means not turning your back on yourself. It's about holding on to what you believe, even when the crowd moves in a different direction. And when you do find people who share your values and support your path, those relationships will be stronger, more sincere, and built on a foundation of mutual respect. So reflect on where you are now and ask yourself, are you standing true to your own path? Or are you being swayed by the noise? Remember, the strength to stand alone is what allows you to walk back into the world with a sense of purpose, authenticity, and unshakable security.
You said you'd always be there for me. But when the chips were down, when I looked over my shoulder, where were you? This city chewed me up, and you watched, sipping on your half-calf latte.
12. Living authentically. Living authentically is one of the most liberating choices a person can make, and it's a cornerstone of genuine happiness. True peace comes from being honest with who you are, not from wearing a mask to gain acceptance. When a woman is secure in her identity, she doesn't bend to meet the expectations of others or sacrifice her values for approval. Instead, she naturally attracts people who appreciate her true self. This is what makes authenticity so magnetic. It's rare and refreshing in a world that often values conformity over individuality. Marcus Aurelius put it best when he said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This piece of wisdom encourages us to stop worrying about fitting into a mold and instead focus on embodying our own values. The same goes for relationships and connections. Have you ever noticed how much more fulfilling it feels to be around people with whom you can be your genuine self versus those with whom you feel the need to put on an act? Living authentically means making choices that align with who you really are, even if that means having a smaller, tighter circle of friends. In modern life, we're bombarded with the idea that more is always better. More followers, more social events, more connections. But let's be real. Quality always outweighs quantity when it comes to relationships. A small circle built on trust, respect, and shared values is far more valuable than a large one based on convenience or superficiality. Just think about it. How many times have you felt more alone in a crowd than when you're by yourself or with one true friend? This is because authenticity resonates at a deeper level, creating bonds that last and nourish the soul. A woman who, despite being successful and surrounded by acquaintances, realized that many of her connections were surface level. She started prioritizing authenticity, choosing to invest in the few relationships that allowed her to be honest and vulnerable. The result? Her life became richer, not in numbers but in meaning. It's not about cutting people off for the sake of it. It's about recognizing who fits in the life you want to build and who doesn't. And this isn't just for women. It's a valuable lesson for anyone, especially those in their 40s to 70s who've already seen how social circles can change over the years. Have you taken the time to reflect on which relationships add value to your life, and which ones are simply there out of habit or expectation? Choosing to live authentically and maintain a small, meaningful circle doesn't mean rejecting the world or being antisocial. It means choosing relationships that elevate you and support you as you truly are. This can be difficult in a culture that often pressures us to conform or stay in touch with everyone we've ever met. But the truth is, peace and contentment come from knowing you're surrounded by people who see you for who you are and love you for it. Those are the connections that sustain you, especially during tough times. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This is more than just advice. It's a way of life that ensures your energy is spent on relationships that are reciprocal and enriching. Are we living in a way that's true to who we are, or are we compromising to fit into expectations that don't really matter? When you choose to live authentically, you're choosing peace, integrity, and relationships that build you up. It takes courage to say, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." But it's this courage that leads to the most meaningful experiences. The woman who lives authentically understands this well. She knows that her value isn't tied to how many people she can impress, but to how she can walk through life with her head held high, surrounded by those who respect her for being real. Ultimately, the reminder we all need is that life's richness comes not from the number of connections, but from their quality. When you prioritize authenticity, you're not just attracting people, you're attracting the right people. The ones who will stand by you because they know and respect the real you. So, think about your life today. Are your relationships reflective of your true self, or are you stretching to meet the expectations of others? If you find that you're often compromising who you are, maybe it's time to shift that focus. Remember, living authentically isn't just a choice. It's the foundation for a life that feels true, rewarding, and deeply satisfying. And as Marcus Aurelius would advise, don't waste time debating what authenticity should look like. Just be it. And that's the key. It's never about the quantity, but the quality. It's not about being surrounded by a large group of friends, but about nurturing a small circle of people who truly understand you, support you, and love you for who you are. That kind of genuine connection is rare and priceless, and it's what makes this woman secure in herself and her life. If you found value in this message, make sure to like this video, share it with others who might benefit, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming content. Thank you for being here, and until next time, stay true to yourself.